Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Anthony. Welcome to Hawaii Farm to Car, brought to you by Ha'ola Farms. This is our second Hawai'i Commercial Kitchens Technical Assistance Workshop. And this specific workshop is about commercial kitchens and commercial kitchen management. So we're going to be talking about all of the things that we do at the Hilo Food Hub and all of the things that you could do at the Hilo Food Hub. So thank you again for joining us. And to start, I want to talk a little bit more about this program at large, what we're doing, why we're here, and where the funding comes from. So this program is funded through the U.S. Department of the Treasury State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds Program, authorized by the American Rescue Plan Act. And the County of Hawaii Research and Development is the recipient of the SLFRF, and through an RFP, they created the Food Security and Agriculture Initiatives Program with about $5 million over 6 different categories for grant funding. So my own company is the recipient of Category 4, Certified Kitchens Cohort Technical Assistance. We have several people here and several people on the Zoom who are members of the commercial kitchen cohort. So those are all of the other commercial kitchens around the island and up-and-coming commercial kitchens on the island. So part of this whole program is to increase the amount of commercial kitchens we have available for all of you. You can find more out about the program at hawaiicommercialkitchens.com. That website is going to continue to be developed with additional resources, as well as the recordings from these meetings and the slideshows. So you will have access to this slideshow. So any of the documents or the links you'll be able to access. Okay, Hilo Food Hub. At this point, I'm going to ask Connor to come on over here. And I'm going to turn your mic on. So the Hilo Food Hub was started in 2020 by Zach Larson. Look at that handsome devil. He was really struggling to find kitchen space for his own food business, which was sauerkraut and kimchi. Has anyone ever had his sauerkraut and kimchi? No? Yeah, you guys remember Zach. Shout out Zach Larson. We know you're out there. But in the beginning, he was just looking for a kitchen for his own use to make his own food product. But it was so difficult that he was like, oh, wait, this is a problem that everybody who wants to make their own food product has. So I can share this kitchen space that I found and am now renting, but only using a little bit of the time. So he started renting out the additional space until he was just running the Hilo Food Hub. So that's how it happened. The Hilo Food Hub is a cold kitchen. There's no hood vent, which means there's no open flames and no vaporized grease. So that's a big restriction if you're doing a commercial kitchen. There's different types, and there's almost certain things you can do depending on what type you have. And Hilo Food Hub is open 24/7. So once you become a member, you get access to the security codes, the key, and you're part of the family. You can come whenever you want. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Connor, and he's going to introduce himself a little bit and talk about the Hilo Food Hub.
All right. Can you guys hear me? All right. Thank you, Anthony, for the introduction, and thank you all for being here today. I'm super excited to be here speaking on behalf of the Hilo Food Hub. A little bit about me. I'm currently the operations manager for Ha'ola Farms here in Hawaii, and I'm managing the food hub. I started out actually with a degree in neuroscience, which is really cool because it gave me a sort of background on how food interacts with our body and our mind. So that's always been an interest of mine. I love food. I've been cooking since I was little. I want to start a food business one day. So I did Teach for America out of college, and I became a high school teacher for 5 years. I taught in the IB program in Jackson, Mississippi. It was a really great experience and it was exhausting. If there's any teachers out there, I highly commend you for the work you do. I ran out of steam, to be perfectly honest. And I also noticed that my students were trying to learn, but not eating like anything good for themselves. I mean, a lot of them survive off of school lunches. So they're eating like, they're like little mashed potato mix and a floppy beef patty and then buying some Cheetos from the kid down the hall. And that's like what their brains are functioning on every day. To eat good food and to eat healthy food and make sure that there's food security in places around the world. And so I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful for this opportunity that I had. I came to visit the island in, it was a spring break a few years back. And I met John and Emily who founded Ho'ola Farms. And I just started volunteering with them. I was like, you guys are awesome. I love what you're doing. I want to learn more. And so volunteering became working for them, and working for them became managing this beautiful organization. So yeah, that's me. So the Hilo Food Hub is located a few minutes from here. And if you want to own a food business, or if you want to serve food to the public, then more than likely you're going to need some kind of permit. And there's two main types of permits. One's a little bit easier to get than the other, but it really depends on what you're trying to do, how big of an operation you're trying to run, and what Anthony said earlier, what you're making, where you're making it, and where you're selling it. So one of the types of permits that you can get from the Department of Health is a food establishment permit. Sorry, the food establishment permit is the second one. Sorry, I wasn't looking at that. But the food establishment permit is like the green placard you might have seen in the windows of restaurants. It's like you can sell food in a variety of places, and you are like an established food business. And then the special events food permit is just for specific locations that you sign up for, like Maku'u Market or something like that, and you just want to sell food or your product at that location at specific times, and it's a little bit easier to get that particular permit. And both of these require the use of a commercial kitchen as of right now. Yeah, the Department of Health. I think a lot of people who are starting a food business, they see department, they see health, and they're like a little bit nervous. But the Department of Health is really our friend, and they're really here just trying to make sure that everybody's safe, that our businesses are able to run appropriately and meeting health standards. If you get to know your local representative from the health department, you'll probably find that they're actually really eager to help you be successful. And yeah, we really encourage you to not be shy with the health department. They have a lot of amazing resources, a lot of amazing information, and they want you to be successful.
Shout out Jeff Mackay, if you're out there in the ether, thank you for all your work as our Hilo Food Hub Department of Health Inspector. We love you.
All right, so a little more about the special events food establishment permit. So this is the one that's a little bit easier to get. It's for the one where you're selling at a specific location at a specific time. You're not getting the green placard in this situation. So in order to get one, you need to apply for one. There's an application on the Department of Health website, as well as there's some examples over there, I believe. We have them as well at the Hilo Food Hub. In order to be approved for your special event permit, you will need to have the following things, like a booth diagram. So how is your booth going to be set up when you're selling whatever you're selling? A hand washing station, and you'll have to pay a fee depending on how many days you sign up for ahead of time. So the more detailed you are and the more you plan ahead, the cheaper it actually is. If you plan, I think you can do up to 20 at a time. Right on, yeah. So if you only do 1 or 2, it's going to be quite a bit more expensive. Whereas if you plan to do 20 ahead of time, it becomes quite cost effective. And you will need your food handler certification. If you're selling food or handling food, that's just a very good thing to make sure that you have, because you'll likely need it at some point in the process. Is a planned activity where food is distributed to the public with or without charge at a public or privately owned property. This may include a sporting event, carnival, farmers market, religious organization function, fairs, or other similar gatherings. This is what a special event permit application looks like. It might be hard to see from there, but we do have examples over there for you to take a look at the end of the presentation or during the break. All right, so the second type of permit you can get is the food establishment permit, the legendary green placard. In order to get this, it is a little bit more detailed process. You're probably going to need to work pretty closely with the Department of Health person in your area. You need to fill out a permit application, which includes your support kitchen user agreement. So you're going to need a support kitchen to be able to get one of these permits. And if you're a small business, that's very likely going to be a food hub like ours that has a commercial kitchen, shared use space. You will have a fee based on your risk level. So for each type of food business that you're trying to do, there's usually 3 different risk levels. And if you're like risk category 1, you're going to have to pay the highest fee. And if you're risk category 3, the lowest fee. Letter of intent and process flow. So that's like you saying and establishing your intention to start this business and do what you're going to do, as well as how you're going to do the processes of making whatever it is you're making in the support kitchen and wherever else you're involved. You're going to need a label. There's instructions on how to properly label your products through this application and through the Department of Health website. You again need your food handler certification. Yeah, if you're looking into doing this and starting any kind of business, I would just get that from the beginning, so you don't need to worry about it. And then you might need a HACCP plan. HACCP plans are usually for products that are a little bit more risky. And so the laws and the Department of Health will determine if you need to get a HACCP plan, which is why it's so important to work closely with your local representative, because they can help guide you through your ideas and if they're going to require that type of thing. This is what a food establishment permit looks like, and these are all the different types of food establishment permits you can get in the different risk categories. If you're interested in looking at that, I think we have printed versions if you can't see it very well. So in the slideshow, Anthony's included a bunch of links so that you can go and find all these things on your own using the slideshow after this presentation is over with. So to become a member of the Hilo Food Hub, there are certain requirements that you have to fulfill. The first one is that you need a GET license, your general excise tax license, that you're an established business in the state of Hawaii. You need general liability insurance, and we have one we'll go over a little bit later that we recommend. The cost for that is $289 a year. This is mandatory. We also collect a $200 security deposit, which you're refunded if you ever choose to stop working with us, as long as you haven't damaged or broken anything and not returned it. You, of course, need, yet again, your food handler certification, as well as your rental agreement. And the way that we do rental agreements is not on an hourly basis. We do packages. So the minimum package is package A. You're going to be signing up for 10 hours of rental time per month, and the cost for that is $20 an hour. If you know that you're going to be using more, you can sign up for bigger packages and get a slight discount. You're welcome to use more than 10 hours if you're on package A and you're just charged hourly. In addition to that, we just found that when we allow clients to do an hourly package, then we end up with these giant lists of customers and all these people who aren't actually in there, and it just gets a little bit hard to manage. You can also use our kitchen as a food truck support service. So it's where you come and dump your gray water and sort of clean things. And so that is $125 a month because you're not actually in our kitchen using the kitchen. You're just using the other facilities.
Yeah, let me just speak to that for a minute because I realize there's probably a lot of people that are interested in starting a food truck and or a farmer's market style operation. And I don't have another slide about the food truck stuff. But basically, if you have a food truck, a permitted food truck, the Department of Health is telling you you can prepare food and serve food in that truck, which basically makes it its own little kitchen, right? If you don't have a 3-compartment sink in your food truck, then every single dish that you use has to be taken to your support kitchen and washed in the 3-compartment sink. If you do have a 3-compartment sink, you can wash your dishes in your food truck. And really all you need the kitchen for is a designated place to dump gray water and fill up fresh water and to dispose of trash. So if you have a fully outfitted food truck, you're still going to need a commercial kitchen as a support kitchen, but you're not going to need to do that much stuff there. If you have a bare food truck, you may end up having to, for example, prep food in the commercial kitchen and then bring it onto your food truck where you go and then serve it. Does that make sense? So your food truck, what you can do and the permitting kind of depends on how you outfit the food truck. Yeah.
My question is, was just if you didn't use all your hours in one month, can you roll them over to a busier month?
No, so the way it works with ours is if you have package A and you only use 5 hours, you're still paying for package A for that month. And then the next month you would get 10 fresh new hours. You can use more than 10 hours and you just be charged, incur $20 additional per hour.
Okay, I'm going to take a question from the Zoom. Tony.
Aloha. For the food truck part, would a container would consider a food truck under that same protection?
If your container is on wheels and being towed by a vehicle, the thing about the food trucks is they have to be on wheels. So you can't like drop a container and say it's a mobile food truck.
Is it, if it's on a trailer, would it qualify then?
Yes, a trailer can be permitted as a food truck.
I see. Because I know we were trying to do it for the cacao farms to get them to do a certified kitchen on the farm where they can process cacao and butter and other stuff too. So good to know. Thanks.
You got it.
So other services we offer at the Hilo Food Hub are storage. So we have dry storage, cold storage, and freezer storage. Shelf storage, or what I'm calling dry storage, is $25 a month. Cold storage is $30 a month, and frozen storage is $30 a month. And so it's per like section on the rack. We also have a lot of equipment in our commercial kitchen. As Anthony mentioned earlier, we do not have a stove, we do not have a vent, and you cannot cook with grease or vaporized oils.
Induction cooktops.
What's that? Yeah, we do have convection cooktop. Induction cooktop. So if you're not cooking with hot oil, you're cooking like boiling something in water, that can be done. Yeah, so this is the equipment that we have. We have more than this as well.
Yeah, just some examples.
Just some examples.
Good.
Yeah. So shared use kitchen space management. There's a lot of things that happen in a space like this where a lot of different people are coming in and out and using things and sharing things and making messes and cleaning messes up and repeat, repeat, repeat. So it's really important that you have a really good and established cleaning system for how people interact with the equipment and the space when they come in and as they leave their allotted time. And so what we do is we have a very large checklist that hangs up on the door of the kitchen. And when somebody joins the kitchen and they start using the kitchen space, we walk them through it in a detailed fashion. We go through every single step with them, go through the checklist with them and show them how to do each of the things. And then the expectation is that every time they use the kitchen, they are checking off the list and performing that action so that the space can remain clean and user-friendly for the next person.
But Connor, do I have to mop the floor every single time, like even if it's not that dirty?
Yes, you do have to mop the floor every single time, even if it's not that dirty, because we're dealing with food. And so the next person who comes in there has their permit to use this space, and for the permit to be compliant and for them to be using this space to serve food to other people, they can't be in a dirty space at all. So it's really important that the space is maintained in a cleanly way. Follow-up, so the reason that's on there is because, you know, sometimes not everybody follows the procedures and the protocols exactly as we have established them. And so we'll have a client come in and there will be some kind of ordeal, some kind of mess, something that wasn't supposed to be there when they got there. And so what happens in that case is they give me a call and they let me know the situation. And so then I go in and I figure out, well, who was in the kitchen before them? I put on my detective hat and I figure out what the problem was and try to address it with the person. Usually it's just one thing every now and then. We have really awesome clients in there. But if somebody does start to repeatedly leave a mess, then we level up the intensity of addressing that issue. Yeah, you sort of have to, I mean, as a teacher, I had to deal with things situationally, and you sort of have to do that in this case too. I imagine if we were like a much larger and established organization, like with way more clients, there might be some exact protocol that you just do every time. But because that's not the situation, just sort of got to handle it case by case. And if somebody's a repeat offender, then you can level up the intensity of your dealing with it. Yeah.
Okay, we have a couple questions. One earlier from the chat, which John already answered. What does HACCP stand for? We are going to get into HACCP plans at the end. It is Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point. So it's just an analysis of all of your hazards of your operation based on critical control points. So like if you need to pasteurize something, the control point is the temperature at which that item has to be reached and the duration of time it has to be at that temperature. That's one example of a control point. And then a question from Lyman, do community kitchens have to deal with official public health inspections? I don't exactly understand that question, Lyman, but I think what you're asking is any of these shared kitchens, whether it's the Hilo Food Hub or Likolehua, in order to get a green placard, the client that's using the kitchen needs to get an inspection from the Department of Health. And the kitchen itself, especially if you're going to be making a product, like let's say Likolehua wants to allow people to do shared use space in their kitchen where they make their lilikoi butter. Likolehua has to get a permit to make the lilikoi butter. And then if another client's going to use the kitchen, they also have to get their own permit with their own inspection by the Department of Health. And then Khaleesi has your hand raised. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just wondering about the cleaning procedure and whether you guys as a hub consider just having your own in-house cleaning every day at the end of the day as a way to kind of standardize keeping the spaces clean.
So yeah, that's not a bad idea in some cases, because we're a nonprofit and we're not really charging a lot for the facility. We don't have a lot of extra funds laying around for things like that. So as a shared use space, we just try to create the system and encourage our users to clean up after themselves. However, we do have cleaning service that comes in once a month and does a very deep clean of the facility, like the whole thing. They come in for like 3 or 4 hours every week with a team and just go hard on it. Yeah. What to do in case of non-payment? This happens a little bit. If it happens once, right, then maybe it's just a mistake, you know. So we just call them right away. As soon as the bills come in, they all come in at the same time every month, so we can see immediately through the food corridor, which we'll get into a little bit later. We can see if there were any declined payments. And so immediately what I do that day or the next day, as soon as I can, is I just call the people whose payments didn't go through and see what's going on. How can we make this work out? And most of the time it's just like, oh, let me just fix something. Let me just put some money in there. Let me just run it again, and all settled. And then every now and then you'll have a client who, you know, is repeatedly not paying on time and having issues. And so just like with the other situation, like you have to sort of deal with it on a case-by-case basis. At least that's what we do. If they're reaching out to me, right? If they're like, hey, I know it declined, like, can I have like a couple days or whatever? I'm usually more likely to be lenient with them because they reached out to me. I didn't have to reach out to them. If they're just completely ignoring it and acting like nothing's wrong and that it's totally fine, there could be a situation where we even end up changing all the locks and changing everything and removing them from the kitchen completely if they're just, say, using the kitchen but not paying us. That's a problem. That rarely happens. Equipment cleaning, breakage, and theft. Funny enough, the biggest theft that I've dealt with is actually toilet paper of all things. But yeah, so we do have issues every now and then with cleaning, as I've addressed before. And breakage, sometimes things are going to go missing or be broken, and sometimes I won't be the one to notice it. Sometimes another client will come in and they'll want to use something and it's not there anymore. So they'll let me know, and of course we'll want to replace that item for the clients who are, you know, using it well. And then sometimes I get to put on my detective hat and try to figure out, well, what did happen to that item? And then more often than not, in my experience, the clients are usually generally pretty honest, and so they will let me know if something broke and either offer to replace it themselves or just take it out of their bill or their deposit if it comes to that. This hasn't been a major issue since I've been managing this, but it is something that happens infrequently, but it happens.
Yeah, having an equipment inventory that's done monthly or quarterly to see what has walked away is invaluable. A hot tip from our experience, for some reason, at least at the Hilo Food Hub, whisks seem to disappear, like big metal whisks. So if anyone out there has one of our whisks, please bring it back. It's probably inscribed with a little HFH on it. So maybe if you see your friend has an HFH inscribed whisk, be like, did you take that from the Hilo Food Hub? That's the hot tip. Also, Yeah, get a little inscription pen so you can inscribe all of the equipment. And it's really important that all the shared equipment is labeled and in the appropriate place so people know that it's shared versus other equipment that might be somebody, a client's specific equipment that's just theirs.
Yeah, labeling is critical because in our kitchen, there is a couple of shelves that are the shared use equipment, and then next to them are shelves where certain clients store their own things. So making sure everything goes back to the right place and is in the right place. So when somebody comes into the kitchen, they know what they can and can't use, and that they put it back where they found it. Building maintenance. So I guess that was probably more where the toilet paper came in. But yes, supplies management, making sure the cleaning supplies are all there and stocked so that people can use the checklist and actually clean up after themselves. That's very important. So every month I make sure to go in and check how much we have of everything and make sure it's stocked so that we don't run out while I'm not physically there. And then there will be, we have a lot of refrigeration units and freezer units, and every now and then there can be electrical outages or things like that. And so those are emergency situations when you're in this business because people are storing hundreds or even sometimes thousands of dollars of their product in those freezers and in those refrigerators. And so you need to have good relationships with people who can repair these things and good relationships with the companies that are servicing your electricity needs so that you can make sure to get that resolved as quickly as possible for your. But then also your clients do have insurance because that's something that they have to have in case there was a devastating emergency of that nature. And yes, conflict between tenants. People are going to be people. And so every now and then there are conflicts that arise between people. This one is definitely a case-by-case basis, determining if I need to get involved. I'm going to look at the rental contract. I'm going to look at the things that are in writing and make sure that everybody is following those things. And if they're not, then I'm going to get involved. If there's a legal, like if there's something that could escalate to something that would require the police, we'll call them. Usually it's nothing that severe. Just
That's
like
never happened, right?
no, not that I'm aware of.
I was like, wait, when did we call the police?
No, but we like if it came to that, then that's what I would do. Yeah. No, that's never happened in the Hilo Food Hub. But yeah, usually it's just like, people disgruntled with each other. They left this way too many times before. And so gotta manage them. That's what you do as a shared kitchen space manager. You have to manage their behaviors, let them know there's going to be consequences, enforce the consequences.
Yeah, and like Connor said, I mean, worst case scenario, if there's a kitchen user who's causing conflict, or creating a problem, and you're not able to resolve it, then a time may come when you have to tell that kitchen user that they're not allowed to use your kitchen anymore. I was just talking with another community kitchen about a client that they had to sever ties with because it was just conflict. So those kind of things, while rare, are also inevitable.
Awesome. I think that's good for that one. Oh, question. Use the mic.
Hey, thanks. Just real quick about equipment breakage. Is there sort of a distinction between breakage due to neglect or misuse of the user versus just general wear and tear? And how do you distinguish between those kinds of things?
I would say yes. If equipment is broken, like dropped, or it's like bent out of shape, or there's glass, like, yeah, that's a clear break, right? But equipment does wear down over time. And so that's sort of as the shared kitchen space, that's on us to sort of keep track of our equipment, make sure that if it's at a stage where it needs some rejuvenation, then it's getting that. Yeah, if you're in our kitchen, you're allowed to use our equipment as long as you're using it the way it's meant to be used. So if it starts to get worn down or old, then that's for us to make sure we replace it or make sure it's working properly.
I got a question in the Zoom chat from Haley. Great question, Haley. How do you manage buffered cleaning time within a user's booking? For example, if they continue to go over their booking time to finish cleaning. Connor, do you want to take that one?
So the first time somebody uses the kitchen, they usually don't put enough time in there to clean the kitchen. That's what I found, usually. But after that first 1 or 2 times, they realize what it takes to clean the kitchen. And so they will start adding enough time at the end of their scheduled slot to plan for that. If they're repeatedly going over their time, then we'll address it with them and let them know that we're going to have to charge them for that time that they're still using the space, because otherwise somebody else could be in the space using it and renting it. So it's just a conversation on a case-by-case basis. I haven't noticed that too often. It hasn't been an issue, but I have noticed it early on in a client's time with us, where they often make those mistakes early on, and they usually autocorrect, but if they don't, then I'll talk to them and I'll be like, hey, make sure, you know, you're gonna use the kitchen for 5 hours for actually making your product, but you need to factor in another hour maybe on top of that as a buffer so that you can make sure everything's cleaned up appropriately.
And then I'll also add, within the food corridor platform, you can automatically add a buffer in between bookings. So if someone books the kitchen until 2 p.m., the next booking can't start until 2:15 or 2:30. So there's an extra little buffer for the previous person if they go over. So I'd recommend that. That could be valuable for you, Haley. And then we have another question from Reese. Do you know of any certain repairing equipment businesses or of any handyman out in Hilo side that you could recommend?
I don't.
Wait, did I just turn? Okay. Where's Mitch at? Mitch, what's your limit? Can you fix a freezer? Can you fix a mixer? We have a handyman here, but he just said he doesn't do appliances. Hilo AC and refrigeration has repaired our freezers here at Farm to Car. But I will think about that, Reese. We definitely want to have some preferred vendors that we can recommend to people. I'm gonna go with, let's go Khaleesi. Do you have a question?
Oh, just wondering about scheduling for your kitchen. Do you guys do like more than one at a time in the kitchen? More than one client at a time?
No, with an asterisk. There's a dehydrator that can be running while somebody else is in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But you can't have 2 people in our kitchen, we can't have 2 people using the kitchen space at the same time.
Due to what, just space restrictions or?
Yeah, just space and resources. We only have one 3-compartment sink. If you build a kitchen out to where there's 2 separate spaces, you can do that. The kitchen I worked in Ohio, where I made my energy bars, that was a shared use space. You could have 3 different clients working in the kitchen at the same time. Just be aware that that will increase the amount of conflicts that arise, I guess, for lack of a better word. Reese has another question. For a shared space compliance for certified kitchen, is there another permit you'd need in order for a certified kitchen to have an installed vent and vaporized grease in the air? No, it is just a green placard. However, you need, in order to install a hood vent and stuff, you would have to get signed off by the fire department as well as Department of Planning. What's that? Yes, yeah, you have to have the fire suppression system for the hood. Good question. Okay, I'm gonna pause the questions for now. And okay, so the food corridor, the shared kitchen management software for commissaries, the only software designed exclusively for shared kitchen management. It's literally designed exactly for this purpose. It is a little expensive. It's $200 a month. But they're kind of the only game in town. So the amount of administrative work that it saves the kitchen manager is a lot. And I'll go through how that works right now. So you can go to thefoodcorridor.com. You can see their pricing. You can request a demo. If you're a kitchen, so for all of our TA kitchen cohorts, if I haven't talked to you directly yet about the food corridor, I will be. But either way, go set up a demo so you can have the food corridor themselves show you how to use the system. So the first thing that you do on the food corridor is the scheduling. As the manager, I can log in and see all of the schedule, all of the previous bookings, all of the future bookings. If you're a kitchen user, you log in to thefoodcorridor.com and you can see the schedule, see what spaces are available, what times are available. You click when you want to make a booking and you make the booking. It really couldn't be easier, honestly, to schedule time. You can have additional calendars. So we have a calendar specifically for the dehydrator, right? So that if somebody needs to make sure that piece of equipment is available, they can book on that dehydrator calendar. If you have multiple spaces in your kitchen, you can have multiple calendars for each space. So there's customization options as well. The billing is the second thing. It integrates with Stripe, which is the payment processor. And so all of the billing is automatically calculated by the platform and automatically billed. So I'll get into more of the specifics. In terms of the documents, that's like the third thing that's a huge benefit of this software is each kitchen user has their own account, and within that account they have a documents tab, and you can specifically require documents and you can have optional documents. So we specifically require the GET, we specifically require insurance, we specifically require the food handlers certification, and we like to also add the rental agreement, and it should be honestly a required document. We just haven't changed that setting yet. So scheduling, billing, and documents. So here's a screenshot of a schedule. So you can see you have some users who need the kitchen for just an hour and a half. You have other users, shout out Leslie with Lava Meats, who are doing a lot more activity in the kitchen and need a longer booking time. And then you have some people who have such a tight operation that they can get in and out of the kitchen, in a very short amount of time. So this is an example of a statement for one client. So you can see that they have the total amount. It was $326 for the month. And then it's itemized. So you have package A, 10 hours per month. That's $200. They are renting a full wire shelf. So they have their own shelf, like the whole rack, and that's $75 a month. And they're renting a dry storage shelf, which is $25 a month. And then there's tax, and there's a food corridor fee as well. Whoop. And then you can see the payment date, and there's a direct link to the Stripe payment. If you need to reference it, you can log into your Stripe dashboard from here. And then there's a refund button as well if there was a mistake or something. So it's really well laid out. If clients have questions about their bill, you can pull it up and reference it directly. You could tell them to pull it up so you're looking at the same thing. Very comprehensive in terms of billing. And then here's the documents. So each client, like I said, has a documents tab. And so they have their business license, boom, uploaded. They have their food handler certificate. And this is the cool part. You can put a setting, is there an expiration date on this document? So food handler certificates last for how long? Pop quiz. 3 years. Most of them are 3, I think they're all 3 years. So this person's is going to be expiring this year in April. Same thing with the liability insurance. That you need to upload every year. That's annual. And then you have the rental agreement. You can also add additional documents depending on, you know, your use, your preference. You can require your kitchen users to upload their permits from the Department of Health. And then this is the fourth thing why the food corridor is a valuable asset for a shared kitchen manager, and that's reporting. It's not always going to be green numbers, you guys. Sometimes it's going to be red numbers. That's okay. So there's a couple red numbers here, but that's because the month previous was an unusually high month, okay? So this is just a quick reporting snapshot. You can see what the total revenue was for the month versus the previous month, what the percent change was. You can see how many clients you have. You can see if you have any overdue payments. You can see what your average revenue per client is. You can see your storage utilization. You can see your booking hours, how many hours are booked per month, and how many documents are expired, right? And each one of these you can click into and get a larger report. And then moving on to insurance. Okay, so this is not the food corridor anymore. This is a different business. The food corridor does not offer insurance. They offer commercial kitchen software. However, there is an insurance company that specifically created an option for small food businesses. It is called the Food Liability Insurance Program. And who we insure, they insure caterers, chefs, farmers market vendors, food carts, food trailers, food trucks. And it's only $299 per year to start. And we also have a promo code for $10 off, so it's $289 for the year. You're not going to get general liability insurance for less than $300 probably from anywhere else. And obviously, you can change your policy. You can increase the insurance coverage. That's totally up to you. We require just the minimum coverage at the Hilo Food Hub. And okay, we already took our break. So that's my run through of the food corridor software. Now I will take questions from the Zoom and in-person audience. If you're in person, please come up to the microphone. And I'll start with Khaleesi, who has a question. Does food corridor integrate with other apps? Good question. They do offer a direct QuickBooks integration, that they charge you more money for. So that's up to you, depending on if you want to manually input the data from the food corridor, or if you want to pay a little extra for direct integration. We do not do the add-ons. There's also another add-on from the food corridor for onboarding flows for when you're onboarding a client. It's basically just like a fancy checklist. We don't pay extra for that either. We don't use that. And then Khaleesi is also asking, is the insurance charged yearly? Yes, you can do, if you do a annual charge, so you pay for the whole year, that's how you get the $299 or $289 price tag. If you pay by the month for the insurance, it's slightly more than that. Great question. Do you want to, microphone? Okay, while you're going to the mic, I'm going to take one more from the Zoom. Naomi has a question about the food handler's card. If someone brings helpers, employees, family, friends, do you require the helpers also upload their food handler's card? How do you keep track of whether you have all the helpers' food handlers' cards? Great question, Naomi. So the answer to your question is, as long as one member of the people in the kitchen, as long as one person in the kitchen, we have their food handler's card on file, that's all we need. If, let's say you have a food business and you have 10 employees, if you have a food business with 10 employees, I'd be surprised if you're using a shared use commercial kitchen at that point. But let's just say, for argument's sake, 10 employees, you have a food handler's card, you signed up for the Hilo Food Hub, you uploaded your food handler's card, and you come in to the food hub with 3 of your employees. We don't need any of your employees' food handler's cards if you're there and we have your food handler's card on file. Only one person in the kitchen per Department of Health has to have the food handler's card. Not everybody. But if you're not there and you send your 3 employees in and we don't have any of their food handler's cards, or they don't have food handler's cards, that's not okay. We need to have at least one person's food handler's card on file that is in the kitchen at any given time. Does that answer your question? I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, in person, let's switch camera. Yeah.
So I should know what my business is and what I want to do, apply to operate at the Hilo Food Hub, get approved, and then I should apply for the insurance?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So the kind of order of events, if you're signing up for the Food Hub, step 1, you don't have to have it all figured out.
I do need a HACCP plan though, so.
Okay, we'll go slow. You don't have to have it all figured out, but you do need to have a pretty good idea of what you're doing, right? Then go to hilofoodhub.com, fill out our application. That will give us a little bit more information about your business, what you need, what you want to do. And then we'll schedule your first tour of the kitchen and an overview of the Hilo Food Hub requirements. At that point, if you're ready to move forward and you have a food handler certification, and you have a GET, and you have a $200 security deposit, and you're ready to rumble, then we'll say, well, you can sign up for insurance right now if you want. Here's the info. Or we'll send you an email that says, hey, here's the remaining info that you need. Sign up for insurance. Here's the link. Here's the promo code. Get your food handler certificate. Here's a link. Costs $9 if you do it on this website, or you can do it through the county for free. You just have to sign up in advance. And we'll go from there. Cool. Okay, any other questions? 3:12 is the time. We're moving along. Where are we at? Oh, so just a couple quick reminders. If you're not a farm to car customer, if you're buying your groceries at the grocery store, Get your act together. Go to hawaiifarmtocur.com, sign up, shop local. If you are a farmer and you're not selling on Hawaii Farm to Car, get your act together. Go to hawaiifarmtocur.com, sign up as a producer, and check out the food basket, hawaiifoodbasket.org. Also, I saw Christian put the link in the chat. Thank you, Christian. Well, you guys got it. You guys got it. Break's over. Okay, chapter 50. Here we go. Everybody's anxiously awaiting the news on the update when the chapter 50 change takes effect. I have no news for you, unfortunately. We're just waiting. The last I heard, which was before last month, was it's on the governor's desk. It needs to be signed, and we're just waiting to hear. So basically, there's a few changes that were made with this legislation to the food safety code. Homemade food, if you're making food in a home kitchen, depending on what you're making, it's allowed. You can make it in your home kitchen and you can sell it direct to consumer. But you're not allowed to sell it for wholesale. You can't sell it to grocery stores to resell it. You can't sell it on farm to car. That was the rule. That rule has changed. Also, the only things you are allowed to make at home are low-risk products. Baked goods that don't need refrigerated, dehydrated food maybe, simple things, non-hazardous. Anything that is an acidified product, something that's water bath canned, and something that's pickled, something that's fermented, none of that was allowed to be made at home until now, or soon, I should say. So the specific language of the rules that changed are now homemade food. The definition is changed to include pickled, fermented, and acidified plant food products. Meat is not included. And they have to have a pH of at or below 4.2 or a water activity level at or below 0.88. So those are critical control points, right? Now, the DOH, right? If you're going to be making your stuff at home and not using a commercial kitchen, you're essentially exempt from the Department of Health. They're not going to come and inspect your home kitchen, right? You don't need a permit from the Department of Health. But according to this new rule, your products do need to meet this safety control point with the pH level or the water activity level. And the DOH has said that you're the one that is responsible for testing your product. So you don't have to test it and then send in the test results to the DOH because you're making your food at home, you're exempt from the DOH. So if you need, so let's say you're making hot sauce at home. You test the pH level and you see, oh, okay, it's 3.9. Record that somewhere, make note of it. That's all you need to do. You don't have to turn that test result into anyone, according to what I've heard thus far. If there is an issue, if somebody makes a complaint, if somebody gets sick from your product, guess what? That might change. So you're going to have to there's going to be some level of investigation. And then the big second change is now you can start selling, once this rule takes effect, not yet, you will be allowed to sell to third parties and wholesale as long as your product is not temperature controlled for safety. So that means you can sell to grocery stores. You can sell to farm to car. You can sell wholesale your homemade food starting whenever they tell us. Yeah. So we'll do more questions in a minute. So again, the testing responsibility is up to the producer. At the Hilo Food Hub, we do have pH paper, pH meter, and a water activity meter that we're going to start making available for testing for a small fee, I imagine. Or you can buy your own stuff. Here's examples from Amazon. pH meters, pH paper, pH meters are relatively cheap. Water activity meters are $500 minimum. And HACCP plans. Okay, John, stand by. I hope you're with me. I'm going to run through this so we have a fair amount of time for specific example questions. So John, I'm going to run through this, and if you're still online, I'm going to ask you to add in anything that I missed or said incorrectly. So hazard analysis and critical control points are required for high-risk food products. This need is determined by your DOH inspector. They will tell you if you need a HACCP plan or not. You need to understand the laws and regulations for your specific product. There's no blanket rules for everything, right? So again, John is available on the island to help determine your classification and handles all technical forms needed to submit to the health department. So what products need a HACCP plan? I wish it was an easy list, but it can be complicated. So if it's a specialized process, you need a HACCP plan. So tell me when you get confused. Fermentation, acidification, jarring, canning, those are specialized processes. Do you need a HACCP plan if you're making it at home? Can you make it at home if you need a HACCP plan? It's confusing. It's hard to know for sure if your product doesn't meet the pH level, it might not be safe. But essentially, if you're making a homemade food product, you're not going to make a homemade food product. You're not going to make a product with a HACCP plan at home. You're going to need to be using a commercial kitchen. You can make a fermented or an acidified or a jarred canned product at home as long as it meets the pH and water activity stuff, and you won't need a HACCP plan. I'm sorry, what?
If chapter 50 is signed.
Correct, thank you, yes. If you're making your product in a commercial kitchen, the homemade food rules don't matter. So you will need a HACCP plan if you have a high-risk product. But you're not going to be doing a HACCP plan and homemade food. Those two things don't really go together. Drying, curing, smoking, sous vide, vacuum sealing, reduced oxygen packaging, a non-continuous cook-chill process, you may need a HACCP plan. Juice, you need a HACCP plan, and you're going to need to pasteurize it. Juice sold direct. Oh, you need more? Yeah, this is just specifically about juice. It has to be pasteurized. If you are doing a food establishment permit and selling your juice wholesale, It's going to have to be pasteurized. It's going to need a HACCP plan. If you are selling juice only direct to consumer, like at a farmer's market, you don't need to pasteurize it and you don't need a HACCP plan. But it has to be labeled unpasteurized for retail sale only. So an interesting example is Hawaiʻi Farm to Car can make fresh juice and sell it through Hawaiʻi Farm to Car because it's direct to consumer, because we're the ones making it. We're the store, right? If you want to make juice and sell it through Farm to Car, you can't do that because it's wholesale, because you're not Hawaiʻi Farm to Car. If you create your own market and you're selling direct to consumer from your market, you can make juice and not pasteurize it. Clear as mud, right? You got it. Everybody got it. I see the look of clarity and comprehension on everybody's faces out there. Fermented or acidified beverages may be exempt from the juice HACCP requirement, but a HACCP plan is going to be required anyways because it's fermented. So example would be Magenta Hands Beet Kvass. Great stuff if you haven't tried it. I'm going to keep all of the questions together for the sake of time. Meat. The wholesale operation of meat or seafood falls under the jurisdiction of the USDA for meat and poultry and the FDA for seafood, except for small egg farms. These operations are not covered by Department of Health. So both USDA and FDA require a HACCP plan regardless. Direct-to-consumer retail meat sales is covered by the Department of Health. So Leslie from Lava Meats, that's what she does. All of her meat sales are direct to consumer. Lava Meats, they're a retail-only operation. She does have a HACCP plan that covers her seasoning and her curing salts. And so Leslie, are you still on the Zoom? Leslie goes above and beyond in terms of safety, right? She doesn't have a HACCP plan because she was told that she needs one. She has a HACCP plan because, hey, this is how I keep my business in order and make sure that all of my products are safe and that I'm doing the right thing. Sprouts. Sprouts need a HACCP plan? Well, because of the inherent risks associated with their temperature and soil growing conditions, sprouts need a HACCP plan. What about microgreens? What's the difference between a sprout and a microgreen? So I asked the DOH, you know what they said? The leaves. Well, the first, so as soon as a sprout starts to produce its first true leaves, it's a microgreen. Before the first true leaves, it's a sprout. Cultured products, yogurt, things like that. Less common scenarios also require HACCP plans, like operating an extended wet storage tank or depuration system for mollusk and bivalve shellfish, common processing, dressing or slaughtering of wild game animals. Make sense? Okay. I am going to call on John. Mr. Nakashima, are you on the chat still? Yes. Is there anything that you would like to add or correct?
I always have one simple, whenever somebody asks me a question, and the common answer is it all depends. And you know, as you've mentioned, everything is like on a case-by-case basis. Best to talk to your health inspector what they're going to require, because that's always going to be the big question. You know, is this allowed, what isn't allowed, and things like that. So yeah, it's good to get in touch with your health department inspector. They're going to be your best resource in the beginning, but not at the times.
Amazing. Thank you, John. I appreciate that.